Hello, sorry about that. I am trying to make sure that I'm visible, which I'm not 100% sure of, but it looks like maybe I am kind of visible. I hope you're all doing really well. It is a different experience because it is Friday morning instead of Saturday. I had gotten so many people who said they weren't available Saturday that I decided to try for Friday. Then we had some connection issues this morning, but I think everything is working now. So I'm glad if you're able to join us live, and especially for the first time, that's fun. We will be going back to Saturday sessions. I may do this one more time because it seems like so many people would rather do Friday than Saturday, but for the most part, we'll be going live Saturday mornings. I will definitely let you know in advance. And as always, you can watch the videos later if it doesn't work to watch them while they're live. That's totally fine. So today, I hope you got your workbook pages. The workbook pages this week are going to be a little bit not more useful, but just there's more to do in them. There's quite a few notes. There's just some different things that I'm asking you to do for homework, just a little bit more this week, because this is a really important week. This week, we're talking about sticking to the plan. Now, going through this boot camp, we talked a little bit about this, but there are different ways that you can kind of sort of stick to the plan. And then there's ways that you can really go all in on the plan. And we're going to be getting more into those. But one thing that's really important, aside from cheating, so I'm not saying you're cheating if you do this stuff. I'm not saying that. But if you aren't eating every 3 to 4 hours and you aren't eating vegetables and you're not eating 5 meals a week and things like that, you're not really sticking to the plan. Like you're kind of following THM light, let's call it that. And you're not going to get the results that you would if you were doing all of those things. It is very, very, very important for your metabolism that you eat every 3 to 4 hours. And I think with this boot camp, that's something I've been seeing more than I've seen in other boot camps where I just have seen a lot of not eating every 3 to 4 hours. And that's so important. So if you can focus on eating every 3 to 4 hours, that means that when you're done eating, the easiest way to do it, when you finish a meal, set a timer for 3 hours later, and then eat again when the timer goes off. And don't eat in between, and don't eat past that. Just try to get, and if it gets closer to 4 hours, that's okay. If you're going any over 4 hours, that's really not going to do you any favors, and you're not going to, you're probably just not going to get the same results. So when I comment on your food journals, please don't take anything personally. If I say that something that you ate is not perfect, I don't mean it personally. I don't mean it offensively. It's just my job is to point those things out. So I just want to make sure everybody knows it's done in love. And sometimes it's hard to read tone through text, just written word, but it's all meant just to help you. And when I give you critiques or ideas, it's to help the plan work better for you, not to criticize the way you've been eating. It's just that, hey, this is what we could do a little bit better. And if you want to get that extra push, this is what I recommend. That's my job when you post your food journals, to let you know what I see that you could do a little differently. So along those same lines, if you aren't eating every 3 to 4 hours, that is the first thing I would work on, aside from staying on plan, which is what we're going to focus on today. If you are not eating any no healthy carbs, get those in there. That's really important. And if you aren't eating any veggies, that's a really important thing too. But the basis of every meal should be protein. Keep that in mind. If you're not getting protein, your blood sugar is going to go up, which can cause that insulin spike, can cause a few issues, but namely it can cause your body to store fat, and that's not what we want. So all of those things kind of work together for success on this plan. And I am going to keep pointing them out to you. So hopefully in the food journals, that's helpful to you, and you can just take the notes and see what you need to do moving forward. So today we're talking about going off plan. And we've all had those seasons of life where it just feels like it's impossible to stick to any healthy way of eating. Sometimes we can get into in our heads, it feels like okay, I've got this. This is no problem. I'm fine. I can handle this. I'm just going to stick to this diet. And then, a couple hours later, we're like, oh, this is harder than I thought. Oh yeah, I can't really do it. Or we'll say, I'll start tomorrow, only to end up taking a bite of something we shouldn't. And then it just kind of all goes downhill from there. So what's really important is to realize that you are the only one who has control over what you eat. You have complete decision-making ability over the food that goes into your mouth. And it's really, really important to look at this as when you go off plan, it is a choice that you make, not something that just happened to you passively. Some of you may be able to notice I have a year-round group of people who do all the boot camps for a year, and then we have an advanced group that we're making some tweaks to and doing some fun stuff with coming up next week. But you may notice when they post food journals, a lot of times, if you see somebody that posts a food journal and I ask them what they did wrong, or I'm a little stricter with them, it's somebody who's been with me for a while. And you may notice that they say things like, I chose to eat this thing. And the reason for that is, and from this point forward, this is going to be true for everybody. In this boot camp, if you go off plan, I want you to take responsibility for it and own it. So from now on, from week 2 on, if you go off plan, I want you to say in your food journal, I chose to eat whatever it is. Because so often we will be like, oh, I didn't have a choice. And I'm not calling anybody out because I've done this too. And I don't even think I've seen anybody say anything like this so far. But what we'll do is we make excuses for it, and we'll say, oh, I was out and all I could get was, I'm trying to think of a good example. All I could get was a cheeseburger. That's all. I mean, I didn't have any food options. It was cheeseburger or nothing. So I ate the cheeseburger. Well, let me tell you something. You could have skipped the bun. You could have gotten a side salad. You could have, I'm not saying you should, could have gotten like fried zucchini and peeled the breading off of it. I don't know. That's a bad example. I have gone to Kentucky Fried Chicken before they had grilled chicken and pulled the breading off the fried chicken and ate it. And it was delicious. And I'm sure there were residual carbs and starches and stuff. But when you're telling me you did the best you could, that's the level of dedication I expect. Okay. And I know it sounds a little weird, but if you're telling me you did the best you could, and the best you could was a burger with a bun and French fries and a milkshake, I'm not going to believe you. Okay. I think you're awesome. And I think you're an honest person, but maybe you're not being honest with yourself if you say that's the best you could do. Not to mention, there's almost always other places you could go. And another thing that I hear frequently that I think doesn't really fly is that you go to somebody's house and all they had was, whatever, and you had to be polite. Well, you can be polite, or you can be polite and eat well in a lot of cases. Let me give you some examples of what that might look like. So if I go to a friend's house and they have lasagna, they're not checking my plate usually. I can eat like the filling out of the lasagna and leave the noodles and be pretty discreet about it. I can eat side salad. I can skip dessert. I can say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm eating really healthy. The rest of the family will enjoy that for sure. And I love that you put so much time and effort into it. I have to eat healthy. Or even I've said my doctor wants me to eat a little bit differently right now because my doctor does. My doctor wants me to eat healthy. Another thing I've done is eating, getting some spaghetti and eating the meatballs and sauce. I mean, I honestly had to come to the realization that I was being very self-focused in imagining that everybody was checking my plate and monitoring what I ate and caring about what I ate when I went to other people's houses. People really don't care a lot of the time. Maybe one weird or like really intense person in your life that will be watching what you eat. I just really thought that all eyes were on me and I had to eat a certain way and I had to just eat whatever I was served. That's really not the case most of the time. And my go-to for that is I will always just take a side dish. I'll volunteer to bring something. I'll take something. Oh no, you're making dinner. Please let me bring something, and I'll bring something that's on plan and healthy. Then I have something to eat. And I can put other things on my plate and not necessarily eat all of them. My point is that there are options. Now, of course, you have complete freedom. So if you go to someone's house and they make the most decadent chocolate cake you've ever seen, and you just want that chocolate cake, then you can say, okay, I'm going to decide, I'm choosing to have this chocolate cake. But don't be a victim of your cheats. Don't say, I had no choice. I just had to. You don't have to. You don't. You can choose something else. So I just want you to be aware from now on in boot camp, if you go off plan, I want you to say, I decided to go off plan. I decided to have this and why. And then let us know, was it worth it? Maybe it was. Very rarely I find that it's worth it to go off plan, but maybe it was worth it. That's fine. There are those special occasions. Like 4 years ago, I went to Hawaii and I ate off plan just about every day, and I don't regret any of it. I did keep it to one cheat per day. I could have gone really crazy, but I don't regret any of that. I haven't been back in 4 years, so I'm glad I ate the way I did, and I would do it again, honestly. But when I'm talking about going to Carl's Jr., yeah, that's probably not going to be worth it. When I'm talking about going out to even a special birthday dinner, probably not going to be worth it. It's a restaurant that's just in my town and I can enjoy it another time and I don't need it. So those are the kinds of things I want you to think through when you're thinking about staying on plan. We have to look at it as a choice that we make and not something that happens to us. And we have to remember, this is key. You are the only one who puts food into your mouth. It is all up to you. You have to keep that in mind. So you have to also know why you're saying no. There is not a ton that you have to say, like anything on THM. I'm not going to say anything. Most things that you would like to enjoy that are off plan there's some kind of alternative on THM. You can have Lily's chocolate. If you go to my favorite blog, and I fangirl over her all the time, but Carolyn at alldayidreamaboutfood.com, I've not had anything that's not delicious from that website. I can find just about any desserts, even Thin Mint cookies on her website made low carb. So it's all S meals and S desserts. They are fantastic. If you can probably replace just about everything that you love with THM in a healthy way. And it feels good to feed the kids that way too. So if you are someone who needs sweets, there are options out there. Just consider that you're doing this for a reason. You are sticking to this plan for a reason. This is your lifestyle now. And why is it your lifestyle? Because you want what to happen? Where do you want to be? That's what you have to keep in mind when you're faced with choices that you don't really want to say no to. So the first key is asking yourself before you eat something, is this going to bring me closer to my goal or push me further away? So every time you are faced with a food decision, picture it like a path that's ahead of you, and you have your goal, which might be down the road a little bit. And where you are, think of it like if you are sticking to the plan, if it's a game board, let's use that analogy. If you stick to the plan, you get to go forward 3 spaces, okay? If you take a bite of something off plan, you have to go backwards 3 spaces. So every time you're faced with a possible off plan decision, if you think to yourself, am I going forward 3 spaces or backwards 3 spaces? Most of the time we're going to choose to go forward, right? But the key is to stop and think about it first. What do I want? Do I want this piece of pizza? Is it worth it to eat this cheesecake and go backwards 3 spaces? Or will it be worth it to say no? And maybe I can make a delicious on-plan cheesecake, which, by the way, cheesecake is one of those things that low carb, especially the one from alldayidreamaboutfood.com, incredible. I can't even taste a difference. But my point is, maybe I'll have this on-plan cheesecake and go forward 3 spaces. So the question really boils down to, am I helping myself or am I hurting myself? That's what you have to evaluate, okay? There's a lot of reasons that we cheat. Temptation, boredom, convenience, emotions. There's a lot of different things that can go on. So what I do, aside from asking that question, I put a no cheat checklist in the workbook. And I go through this list. I had it printed and on my refrigerator, and I had another copy in my purse. I would go down this list and do all of these things before I'd let myself cheat. So the first thing, and you can do this, eventually I stopped using it because I had them kind of memorized. And now the thought process, part of this checklist is to help you really evaluate. Part of it is just to slow down. And by the time you get to the end, if you've slowed down your thought processes and curbed some of the impulse with eating, then by the time you get to the end of the checklist, a lot of times you're just like, okay, I don't need it anymore. I'm good. So the first thing I do is remember that I have value and I have control over my desire for sugar. I use this example all the time, but I have a German Shepherd. If I put a roasted chicken on the table, she could not control herself. And maybe that's training a little bit, but let's say it's not my dog. Let's say it's a wild animal. If they see a chicken, there's no way they're saying no to that chicken. They just do it. Well, we are not animals. We do have control over ourselves. We can make other choices. So I remind myself of that. I'm not a mindless eater. I am not just, an animal. I am a human being with value, and I decide what goes in my mouth. I choose that. The second thing I do is have a glass of water. A lot of times I've found when I think I'm hungry or I really think I need to eat, I'm just thirsty. It's easy for your body to get confused. So having a glass of water can help. Also, this one sounds mean, but I don't mean it in a shaming kind of way. I recommend weighing yourself because weighing yourself when you're about to cheat, it's unlikely that it's first thing in the morning. And if you're anything like me, you may weigh first thing in the morning, not clothes, so that you don't have any extra weight on there. I have been known to take my hairband out to just get those extra ounces off, just to see what's going on. But if I'm weighing, so let's say I have dinner and then everybody's getting regular ice cream and I really want regular ice cream and I go step on the scale. Well, that scale is going to be significantly higher than it was first thing in the morning without any clothes on. Number one. Number two, I just sometimes need the reminder that I'm not where I want to be. So before I got to goal weight, I did this one. I'm sorry, I have something. I did this one a lot, and I mean a lot. Like I weighed myself almost every day, which I don't recommend, but I did it every time I wanted to cheat. And then eventually, because I wasn't at goal weight, I got kind of tired of getting on and off the scale all the time. And that was a deterrent also. But weighing myself just reminds me I have a purpose in not eating this stuff, and I'm not where I want to be. So that's why I'm going to skip going off plan right now. It's not to shame myself. It's just a reminder. The next thing is to treat yourself to something. So let's say, and now Lily's chocolate is on plan, and I'm sorry, my voice is kind of going out, ladies. Lily's chocolate's on plan, but you don't want to be eating it nonstop. If you are tempted to go off plan, eat the chocolate. If you are tempted to go off plan, eat a crossover. This shouldn't be happening all the time. But and this is probably maybe oversharing. I don't know if you guys mind, but once a month when I'm very hormonal, I have a bowl with 3/4 of a cup of brown rice, a big like tablespoon of butter and salt and pepper, and a baked chicken thigh. It's a crossover because brown rice is an E, butter is an S, and chicken thighs are S. It's a crossover, but it's so delicious. It keeps me from eating off plan. I'm telling you, that's what does it. It's that it feels forbidden because it's a crossover, but it's so good. Every once in a while, I'll have like a steak and a sweet potato instead. That's another crossover. Having the crossover feels like you're doing something you're not supposed to do. It feels like cheating, but it's not cheating. So if you are ever in a position where your choices are go off plan or eat a crossover, eat the crossover. We don't want to do it all the time, but from time to time, it's not going to hurt you, and it might even help. So that's something that is definitely on my list. If I'm getting to that point where I really feel like I'm just going to go for a cheat, I'll have a crossover instead. I also like to recommend that you listen to a podcast if you're tempted to cheat. Listening to Serena and Pearl, sometimes I hear their voices in my head and I don't want to go off plan, and that's helpful. Next is call a friend. Now, I've got friends, and maybe you do too, that if I call them, and I can think of one right now, and I'll say, hey, I'm trying to eat healthy, and I just really want to go buy a candy bar right now. She'll be like, girl, you deserve it. You go get that candy bar, eat 2 of them. I'll come over and bring you more. Like that friend, don't call that friend. I call the friend that I'll tell, hey, I'm struggling. And she'll say, Jennifer, you need to eat well. You're taking care of yourself right now. What are you thinking? That's not taking care of yourself. That's just spiking your blood sugar. Call the friend who will hold you accountable and help you stick to the plan, not the one that's going to give you a pass, because that's not really what you need. So if you find that you're tempted a lot, aside from following those, the checklist, I want you to think about, have you ever had the experience that you look at something and you really want to eat it and you eat it and it's not as good as you thought it would be? I want you to really start evaluating, if you go off plan, do you feel truly 100% satisfied when you do go off plan? Or do you ever feel a little bit yucky? Do you ever feel like maybe you feel a little sick? Sometimes we get stressed or shameful about eating badly. And there are studies that talk about how the stress and shame can actually cause more weight gain if you go off plan. That's why it's really important. If you do go off plan, let it go, make a plan for next time, but don't dwell on it. But I have found that most things aren't worth it. So I really want you to start considering, when you're tempted to go off plan, the last time I had this, was it worth it? Is getting ice cream at Baskin Robbins really going to be that much better than getting my favorite flavor of Enlightened or Halo Top or Rebel ice cream at the grocery store? Is it going to be that much better? Maybe it is going to be better, but is it going to feel so good? And am I going to be so okay with it that I'm just fine? So think through things like that, because sometimes it just isn't worth it. So a way to avoid temptation is to always have something ready at home. If you don't have time to cook anything, which I think everybody should, get something like Lily's or Enlightened or Halo Top that's a treat that you can buy from the store. But I think everybody should have something ready at home. My favorite thing when I don't have time is to make the superfood chocolate chews from Trim Healthy Table. They take less than 5 minutes in the food processor. I don't roll them into candies. I just keep it all clumped up and I'll just tear off a piece. It kind of tastes like a Tootsie Roll. When I have a really bad sweet craving, I'll have one of those. Another way to avoid temptation is always keep something with you in your bag. We'll talk next week about prepping ahead a little bit and having snacks with you at all times, but having something with you can sometimes be a game changer when it comes to being offered something, or donuts in the break room, or candy bowls on your boss's desk, or whatever it is. The next thing is remind yourself of what it feels like to cheat versus what it feels like to stay on plan. And that's those 3 steps forward. Do you want to take 3 steps forward, or do you want to go backwards and have more work to do? Remind yourself of that satisfied, good feeling you have when you've eaten on plan versus some of the yucky feelings that might come when you go off plan. And then my favorite weird trick is, if you are somebody who is tempted to eat sugar a lot, or just ever, I like to have a dill pickle. And for some reason, a room temperature dill pickle after a meal keeps me from cheating. It's the same principle as, like, for some people, brushing your teeth will do it. Having water with fresh mint in it can do the same thing. It's kind of getting a certain flavor in your mouth, and then the sweets don't taste as good, and it can help with the cravings a little bit. So that's what I like to do to help myself avoid temptation. And sometimes in boot camp, some people will comment that they just are eating dill pickles all the time, which isn't bad. They're FPs. Just make sure there's no sugar in them. So aside from temptation, I also find that we eat out of boredom a lot. If you find that you're grazing or not getting to the 3 hours between meals at least, a lot of times we need to drink water. We need to have an FP, what Pearl calls an ultra light FP, like some sliced cucumbers or celery or something really munchy that's very, like, one of those negative calorie foods, those veggies that it uses more calories to eat them than are actually in the food. Sometimes we need to just avoid food, like go for a walk if we're eating out of boredom. If you're bored and eating mindlessly, and grazing, you kind of have to figure out what works for you. And if you are eating out a lot or eating off plan out of convenience, it's really important to have super quick and easy store-bought meals, like those rotisserie chicken meals that were in the workbook last week, and snacks to help you when you don't have any time to cook. If you are a stress eater, I recommend getting out of the mindset that you deserve a reward, because I think that is A lot of times we can convince ourselves that we deserve a lot more than we actually need. And what we're not realizing is when your body is stressed, you need to take care of it even more. You need to avoid sugar. You need to avoid the inflammation that comes with sugar because stress is already so much on your body. If you have sugar or something that's not good for you, your body is going to be even more stressed. So getting out of that mindset is important. But if you know that you're going, like, if you just know, you know what, I've had a hard week, it's Friday, I'm going to cheat if I don't have something ready. Freezer items are just perfect for that. If you bake something, you're probably going to eat it before you have your emergency. Okay, now this is next level. I really need to have something special kind of times. So freezer items, I just tend to save mine for those times that I just really feel like I need something special. And that my favorite freezer items with THM are just the popsicles in the Trim Healthy Table cookbook, or in the original book, they had a chunky cream pop recipe that was pretty good. Things like that that can just hang out in your freezer are really, really, really handy for things like that. Amanda said, what about eating because you're tired? Actually, they just talked about that in the THM podcast and said, if you're tired, you should just be sleeping more and not turning to food if you're tired. I think that might kind of fall into the same category of mindlessly eating or eating, you might want to drink water or just try to get away from food if that's the case. Now, some people will be discouraged and say, why, here's the thing with weighing. Some people can weigh, and when they weigh, they are motivated to do better. Some people can weigh every week or more and get discouraged. And then out of those discouraged emotions, they tend to cheat. Or if they're doing well, some people may be doing well and then cheat anyway because they use that as they give themselves a pass. Like, oh, I've lost 3 pounds. I can go ahead and eat whatever. And then they undo the work that they've done. So if that's you, if you're cheating out of discouragement in either direction, take a break from weighing and start measuring instead. Listen to podcast episode number 78. And in the podcast, they talk about buying truth and remembering your truth and using it to move you forward. And they make the point that what is easy is not valuable. And that's something that's so important to remember if you're an emotional eater. It is so easy to eat what you want. It doesn't cost you anything at the time you're doing it. The cost comes later. Like you can eat and feel pretty good about what you're eating and not realize the consequences until they're catching up with you. While you're cheating, it feels freeing and there's no planning ahead. There's no struggle. It just feels like a bonus thing you get to do that makes you temporarily feel a little bit better. But alternatively, when you take the truth and you struggle for something just a little bit, you pay for it. You could be paying not monetarily, paying financially for valuable, good food. You might be paying more with your time to prepare the healthy food. Making a home cooked meal is going to take a little more time than making a box of Kraft macaroni and cheese. You're also paying by sacrificing the thing that's not good for you and choosing something healthy instead. But what you pay initially into a healthy choice, a healthy food choice, reaps huge rewards for your body. Not only for your body, but also for your character and your decision-making process and the health benefits that you are going for. Now, if you are someone who cheats emotionally or cheats out of discouragement, I want you to think about something. One of my favorite books ever is Atomic Habits. And in that book, they talk about how the bamboo tree, a lot of the work of the bamboo tree happens underground. And the bamboo tree will grow for years underground before it sprouts. Now, it's not going to take you years to see results in most cases if you're eating well, but it's important to remember we can't always see all the benefits of what we're doing. So if you're someone who gets discouraged and thinks this isn't working, this isn't kicking in the way I want it to, it's not happening as fast as I'd like it to, you have to remember what's going on under the surface and all of the things that are working together to get you where you want to go. If you give up, those processes come to a halt and your body can't heal the way it needs to. If you move forward, you can continue that underground root system that's going to end up in results. I mean, I totally understand It is frustrating to not get immediate results. And I've seen too that when I lost weight, no one noticed for like 6 months. And I expected people to be like, wow, you lost 30 pounds, but no. No, I think I had to get to like 45 pounds before anybody even commented on it at one time for one of my other rounds of weight loss. It just is interesting that people don't notice right away. But it does happen. It does kick in. It does take effort, but you have to kind of respect the process of what's happening under the surface before you see the outward results. There are benefits. It just sometimes takes a while. So I really, really recommend, if you're an emotional eater, to read or listen to the book Made to Crave by Lisa TerKeurst. It is excellent. It is excellent. I've read it many times. I highly recommend it. And now we've already gone over our time, but I want to briefly tell you what to do if you go off plan. This is important. This is very, very important. And if you, in your food journals for the rest of boot camp, say, I ate off plan, I want you to tell, or you chose to eat off plan, I want you to tell me if you followed these steps, because this is very important. Okay. So often when we go off plan, even if it's an accident, we get, and those of you who've been with me before know that I talk about this a lot, you get a case of the might as wells. Okay. So what I call a case of the might as well. So my favorite example of this is I went to McDonald's with my daughter for her birthday. That's where she wanted to eat. And I got a cheeseburger with no bun. I didn't even get ketchup because McDonald's puts a lot of sugar in their ketchup. I was feeling really proud of myself, and a side salad. And I had a birthday cake at home for my daughter. We decorated like a unicorn. And then I had magic salted caramel cupcakes from Trim, I think from Trim Healthy Table, one of the books, for me. I was set. I had no reason to go off plan at all. But as I was pouring the ranch dressing on the salad, I noticed on the back of the package that it said there were 11 grams of sugar. And one of the first ingredients was corn syrup solids. So it's like pure sugar. So instead of figuring something else out for the salad, my immediate thought was, oh, well, there's a lot of sugar in this dressing. I guess I might as well have the unicorn birthday cake when I get home. I might as well. And then I started thinking, and I might as well have a soda while I'm here. And my mind just went nuts thinking of all the things I could pack in, all of those things that I could squish in, because I hadn't even taken a bite of this salad dressing that had so much sugar in it. Fortunately, I came to my senses and I didn't have the salad. I ate the burger. It was a sad burger with no ketchup and no bun. I went home and had the magic salted caramel cupcakes, but it was so apparent to me that I was willing to pack in all the cheats that I possibly could with my might as well mindset. So I want you to get out of that mindset. And instead of waiting 3 hours, which is one of the top comments I see on the THM Facebook groups, do not wait 3 hours to get back on track. Don't wait. Get back on plan immediately. If you're eating something off plan, put it down, throw it away. My most empowering moment in quitting sugar was taking a sip of soda and throwing the whole thing away, because I knew I didn't need it and I was sick of it. And if you ever feel like you're sick of it and being in the cycle that you're on, sometimes just throwing it away can be a big, big thing. Get rid of it. Have an FP or something very uniquely THM, like a shake or a smoothie or a frappa or something like that, to signal to your brain that you're fully committed and you're back on track and THM is your lifestyle now. And then I want you to follow it up with some deep S meals. So ideally, you'll have at least 2 deep S meals. Deep S meals are no dairy, none of the higher carby items like avocado or onions that are allowed in a regular S meal, and no nuts. It's just pure healthy fat. So I put some examples. I put a recovery meal plan under extra resources. I also put a list of deep S meal ideas, at least 2 or up to a day and a half of deep S meals to get your body back on track. You need that. It will help with cravings. It will help you get back on track. It will help undo some of the damage from your cheat. Even if you just have a few bites of something or a sauce that you shouldn't, or a drink of something you shouldn't, have those deep S meals. It will help. Pearl has done extensive research on this and shared a lot of the science, and it's really, really impressive what they figured out with this. But those deep S meals are key. So that's what I want you to be aware of if you are, if you go off plan. So the steps that you take if you go off plan is you're not waiting 3 hours, you're back on track immediately. I don't want anybody saying if you go off plan, I can start over in 3 hours. Don't start over in 3 hours. Start over right now. Get back on track with some kind of FP or THM food, and then deep S for at least 2 meals, up to a day and a half. I like to do a full day and a half of deep S. Yeah, I think that helps the most, but whatever you can do, I want you to do it. And then just remember that you're learning. Every meal you have, every snack, every choice you make, you're learning and growing. If you don't already have it down, you're going to get it. And if you feel like you're stuck in a cheating spiral, you're not. You can put a stop to it. You have complete control over it. Sometimes we just don't believe that about ourselves. We don't remember that we have control, that we can stop. We feel like we can't. But taking ownership and realizing that you can doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect 100% of the time. Doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It just means that going forward, you are aware that you're capable of making good choices and you're going to keep trying. If you are 100% on plan, if you told me I'm going to be 100% on plan for the rest of my life, I wouldn't believe you. I don't think it's possible. But if you told me that, I am always going to do my best, and if I mess up, I'm going to get right back on it the next minute, and I'm going to figure out what I can do differently next time. That's the mindset that's going to take you all the way. That's the mindset that's going to make it a lifestyle and not a diet. That's the mindset I want you to have. It's not going to be perfect. It's not always going to be pretty, but it's going to be consistent. And if the consistency is in the fact that every time you stumble, you get up and keep going, those are the people that get to goal weight. And that's what's most important. Yes, I want you to try. I want you to always try and always do your best. And at the end of the day, I feel like you should be able to look back and say, did I do my best today? If you are saying yes to that most of the time, that's excellent. Occasionally, maybe you're not going to have done your best. Occasionally, maybe you can identify some things that you can do better. But most of the time, if you really do your best, that's going to start showing up in your results. So that's what I want you to focus on, always doing your best. If at the end of the day, you look back and say, did I do my best today? Well, I had a cookie. That wasn't my best. Okay, how do I avoid the cookie next time? That's what I want to see. Even more than perfection is the willingness to always make changes and grow, but also not making excuses for yourself. If you ate the cookie, own that you ate the cookie. Say, I made a choice. It wasn't the best choice. I did not help myself lose weight today. I may have even chosen to gain weight today, but tomorrow's different. And I'm back on track starting right now. Those are the kinds of thoughts I think that help us move forward the most. So this week, there is a little more homework. If you can get your hands on that book by Lisa TerKeurst, I love it. I really recommend it. And next week we'll be back to Saturday, and I hope you all have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.